Hey, I'm just going to give this one more shot. I'm just sort of recording a checkpoint for my reconstructing lost spaces project, which was to work on the Paradise Garage, sort of a New York City music venue from the 70s and 80s, sort of important in the history of, I guess, club music, I guess you could say, DJ music, whatever, however you want to call it. And yeah, this was definitely, I know that this is super incomplete still, like this needs way more textures, and the modeling needs a lot more detail. But I think from here, I'm going to start to work on the audio portion, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. But yeah, one of the challenges for this is that um, there is just not a lot of useful information for me to reconstruct a space with. Probably the most like helpful bit of like hard evidence was this speaker chart here that was put together by the people who actually designed the speaker system. And if you follow this link, you get a pretty robust, um, like you see pictures of a bunch of the equipment they used, and there's all this like really detailed information, mostly about the sound, but also about the space in general. Like for example, 20,000 square feet total, and a 5,000 square foot dance floor, and a 2,000 square foot lounge. Those numbers are going to be very, very helpful for me in terms of getting a sense of the size of this place. Um, in any case, yeah, like I think, yeah, one of the big challenges was, making sure I was getting the dimensions right and also the layout. Like I knew that there was a ramp, I knew there was a dance floor, I knew that there was a lounge, I knew that there was a DJ booth like above the dance floor. I didn't know where any of them actually were. And so I had to, stare at these blurry photos, stare at these, blurry video clips and deduce where everything was. Let me just check this recording. Okay. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'll start with, I think, what was sort of like the key for me in all this, which is the ramp. I knew there was a ramp up to the second floor. You would enter and then reach the dance floor, but I didn't know like where that was or how that would work or how that worked or how that was positioned, etc. Um, I did, one of the pictures I did find faces, pairs, references. So here's a picture of people entering the venue. If you would be so kind, there we go. People entering the venue, and then when they get up the ramp, they make a right. So they enter by making a right turn. So, okay, so like that tells me a lot, right? Because, I can't imagine that the ramp is like in the middle. I can't imagine that it was like cutting off a lot of the space here. It has to have been either on the left or the right side, most likely. And if they're entering the building, the venue by making a right turn, then it just makes sense for the ramp to be on the left side. Um, So cool. That was like first bit of like positional reasoning I had to do. I need to figure out what the dimensions of the space were, like the width of the ramp, the size of this like facade, the height of it, etc. And so that was definitely hard. I was like, "Hey, Claude, here's a picture with a car in it. Estimate the size of the building for me." And just sort of spat out this number, and I was like, "I don't know if I can trust that number." Um, and so what really I think gave me a number to feel confident in is this little shot from this documentary on the space, which is just just somebody in the daytime filming the ramp looking down to the street, and then there's some people walking past the entrance, and going to their place. You can see there's a guy. Oh, sorry. Okay, here we take one, two, three, four faces, just about to get across. and pace is like about a yard. So I think the ramp is about 12 feet across. That seems pretty reasonable for like a garage ramp, for cars to go up. And so, so that's great. I know the width of my ramp, or I have an educated guess. But also notice that like, so here's a picture of the building, um, I guess in the 2000s. Here's it in 1939, and this is it in 2016. And it's a bummer they took off the facade and stuff. The nice little arch that they had. But you can pretty clearly see that it seems that like, we have these like three bays, but like really the building is in sort of like seven segments that are each the width of the bay with about like a 1.5 foot like um, extension out to sort of I guess give it some texture or something I guess if this was just like a flat brick wall, it might not look as interesting. Um, oh yeah, and notice these little flowers here because I'll be talking about them later. Um, in any case, uh, so each of these seven segments is about the width of the ramp because the ramp takes up the entire bay door, more or less. And so that's 12 feet. Well, then that's right. If the bay is about 12 feet wide, and I um, estimated these little extensions to be about 1.5 feet in width, that just seemed reasonable, I guess. If you do 7 times 12 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 1.5, that gets you 96 feet. So nice. I have a, decent estimate for the size of the front of the building. But what about the rest? How far back does it go? Well, it's hard for me to tell because the building, it was demolished in 2016. But here's the location in real life. Here's the building that's there right now. Appears to be residential. It's sort of like a backyard space. And so if this is what's there now, then this is probably everything that was available for Paradise Garage. Like it probably occupied this whole area because it was a parking garage and they wanted to maximize useful space. And so I guess like this to be about like 1.5 times the length of this, right? So this gave me dimensions of the space of about like 150, 175 this way to like about 100, like 96 feet or something, but like about 100. And so, yeah, like my model is laid out according to those dimensions. And so, with the ramp and with those dimensions, I can sort of put other things away. Like for example, I knew that this was probably, I was able to deduce this was probably the orientation of the dance floor, because, it would not fit if it was rotated 90 degrees either way. I just don't think there would have been enough space. So that means that either the stage was on the window side and you would enter through here, or like you would enter through like going behind the stage. And that seemed weird. Like I can't imagine that like people be like sneaking in like past the band or because sometimes bands they perform, but they'd be going in like this. Like that just seemed really strange to me. I assumed that they had to sort of come in like this. So yeah, my assumption is that the stage is in front of the windows, which have been treated, probably treated and sealed. And this way it's still, they're getting a lot of those sort of like famous reverberations off the concrete that lined the place. Um, and I knew there was a lounge, and so where was the lounge? Well, somebody mentioned that like, before the club was officially open, they would have fundraisers in the lounge. They called them construction parties, so they could like get the capital required to actually put the space together. Um, and so somebody mentioned going to them, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I went up this ramp, and like I turned right, and then all of a sudden it was just these blue lights, and then so like the lounge was probably pretty close to the entrance." Um, So I put it right here where you would sort of, go up here, enter, and then you'd be at the lounge. And if it took up about this much space, then imagine that there's like a wall here. The way into the dance floor is probably through this. Like maybe bathrooms are here, coat check is here. I'm not sure exactly about those, but I think this is a pretty decent estimate of the space. The DJ booth. I knew that there was, the DJ was above the crowd. I know that he was in some sort of like alcove or third hidden floor or something, but I didn't really know the details. And so what helped was sort of these like very blurry images from the documentary. Um, I might as well just show you it in motion.
It was you and them against the world.
Like this is being taken from an elevation. Like the cameraman is above the people in the crowd. And so, maybe he's on a ladder, maybe he's suspended in a harness, or maybe he's shooting from the DJ booth. I think that's probably the most likely explanation. And so, cool. I realized I could use these elevated shots to try to like triangulate the DJ booth. And if you notice that, like, something I noticed is that in so many of these shots, you are seeing people, like, you're seeing the right side of their face. Like, they are all looking that way, like this way. And you see the right side of their face. And then in some shots, you can see the stage. And when there are shots on the stage, the subjects will be looking to the left. Um, and you'd be able to see uh, the uh, the right side. Right. You can see the left side of their face. So facing the stage, you saw the right side of their face. Facing on the stage, facing towards the back, you saw the left side of their face. So that meant the DJ booth was probably like right here, somewhere, maybe along this axis, but on this side of this floor for sure. Um, the entranceway does have a pretty high ceiling. Like this has got to be 15 feet. And so, maybe the booth was situated above here, or maybe this wall is like kind of thick and sort of built something, there was like space in that, or maybe they built a platform or something. I don't know. Um, but if not above the ramp, I think the DJ was like next to it. Um, so yeah, that's my layout of the space. And so I want to, I am able to load this into 3JS. Like here's my code for that. Here's it running in 3JS, and so I can move around this space. There's some pink noise that I rendered spatially, and I'd like to do something where you can go up the ramp and you sort of hear the music and it's like thump 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 like through a low pass filter, and then it's slowly starting to clear up, and then you get like here it really clears up, and then you can kind of hear the audio coming from all these like sources, and maybe try to split by EQ or something. But that's the next thing for me to work on if I have time to do it. Um, and uh, yeah, that's most of what I want to say. I do want to take a note to point out how much I worked on trying to get these little flowers modeled correctly. You know, I probably should not have spent all that time doing it. Um, but you can see my attempts here. I have like a 30-minute long video where I make this so I can remember how to do that in the future. I just sort of like got so obsessed with figuring out how to do that. Just model the flower. And I was like, I know I can do this. I just need to like try things and figure it out. And I think I got pretty close. Maybe not the best use of my time, but I still feel good that I was able to figure it out or get close, get pretty close. And so yeah, that's it. That is what I have so far. It definitely needs a lot more work. It needs a lot more texture and a lot more lighting and better audio. But definitely a lot of like interesting forensics just to get to this point. And I hope that I can share something much more finished very soon. Uh, in any case, thank you for watching.